Chapter 91 You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. 91 Still her darling. At this moment, an untimely voice interrupted the two of them. Meng Meng, who is he? Gu Xian's tone was filled with vigilance and rejection. Compared to Ruan Meng Meng, it was true that he preferred the more pampered and more feminine Ruan Jiaojiao. However, that did not mean that he could allow Ruan Meng Meng to like someone else. Ruan Meng Meng had always been his shadow. Although she could not inherit the Ruan family in the future, her pretty little face was still there. With her pursuing him, Gu Xian believed that his value would rise as well. Therefore, he would never allow Ruan Meng Meng's gaze to leave him. Jiao Jiao was right. Ruan Meng Meng, you've changed. Qingqing, tell me, what's your relationship with this man? Did you transfer to Wisdom Academy all because of him? You're going to be his mistress just for this. Gu Xian's thought process was simple. Ruan Meng Meng did not have the ability to transfer to Wisdom Academy. She must have used some unspeakable connections to get into Wisdom Academy. This man's appearance was perfect. He must be Ruan Meng Meng's sugar daddy. Gu Xian's words immediately piqued the curiosity of the surrounding students. There was a rumor in the school that Ruan Meng Meng was Boss Huang's mistress. The man in front of her was not the rumored lame and pockmarked Boss Huang. But no matter what, a high school student getting involved with a sugar daddy wouldn't have a good impact. What a joke. Even Ruan Jiaojiao, the illegitimate daughter of the Ruan family, has the right to study at Wisdom Academy. Why wouldn't I, the proper second young miss of the Ruan family, have the right to? Ruan Meng Meng's beautiful eyes turned, and she turned around with a chuckle, holding Li Junyu's arm. Also, what the hell is a kept woman? How could my darling and I have that kind of relationship? As she spoke, she raised her chin and smiled sweetly at the man's cold and handsome face. Don't you think so, my dear? The young girl's almond-shaped eyes were sparkling. Her exquisite little chin was raised high, like a pampered and arrogant peacock. Ruan Meng Meng's words were obviously meant to show off and to spite him. On the other hand, Li Junyu had always loathed being used to show off and to spite others. However, when he lowered his eyes and saw the uneasiness and pleading in the young girl's sparkling almond-shaped eyes, he couldn't say anything to expose her. The man's dark brows furrowed slightly, and he sighed silently in his heart. Forget it, this is the only time. I'll discipline him when I get back. In front of outsiders, he had to save some face for the little girl. A slightly cold palm went down from the girl's shoulder and clasped her soft waist. Li Junyu gently pulled her weak and boneless little body into his arms. Intimacy without any reservations. The man's a-sense jaw rested on the girl's fragrant hair and he spat out a few words, yes, whatever you say. His tone was still cold and indifferent, but the words that came out of his mouth carried a strong sense of doting. Impossible, I'm the one you like. Gu Xian's expression changed slightly, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. He did not like Ruan Meng Meng, but he had long been used to her constant pursuit. It was unpredictable. He couldn't accept that the little girl who had been following him all this time would actually fall in love with someone else. Gu Xian would rather that Ruan Meng Meng was jealous of Ruan Jiaojiao and was willing to be someone's mistress just to compete with her at Wisdom Academy. He also could not accept that she did not love him. Meng Meng, I don't believe you. Gu Xian unconsciously let go of Ruan Jiaojiao and wanted to grab Ruan Meng Meng. Who knew that just as she took a step forward, she was blocked by a cold and sharp gaze. That man sneered at the man who snatched Ruan Meng Meng away. He only looked up at Gu Xian. Gu Xian, who had just stepped into the university campus, was deeply aware of what it meant to be cold and fearful. Chapter 92 You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. 92 Chapter 93 Heartbeat The tyrant, who was renowned in the business world only needed one look to make Gu Xian, who was still a greenhorn, withdraw his hand from Ruan Meng Meng. Brother Xian, I'm feeling dizzy. Ruan Jiaojiao was not someone to be trifled with. She could tell that Gu Xian was wavering, so she immediately called out to him. Gu Xian came back to his senses and turned around to support Wan Jiaojiao. Wan Jiaojiao fell into his arms in an instant. It was as if she could no longer stand once she left Gu Xian. You're really good at pretending to be a sister. In law, Wan Mengmeng mocked in a low voice. She wanted to go up and tear another round, but her small hand was caught by a slightly cold palm. You're not allowed to go over. The man's low, cold, and magnetic voice rang out behind her ear. It's almost time. You should go in. He was here to deliver the exam. He wasn't there to back this little girl up and make her quarrel. Wan Mengmeng's big, watery eyes flickered. She thought for a moment and stopped in her tracks. Alright, Ing Luo, I'll go in now. On the surface, she nodded in agreement, but in her heart, she was actually thinking that since Li Junyu was here, she could not use vulgarities even if she was unhappy with the argument. It was better to do it next time. Be obedient. As if he was pampering a kitten, he reached out and patted her head. You've worked hard for so long. Good luck in the exam. She had rushed back to send him to the exam just for this sentence. Ling Bei told him that the little kitten studied very hard at home, and the tutor praised her for every subject. Thinking about how she had worked overtime and put in so much effort for the past week, Li Junyu, as her older brother, had the idea of personally sending her to the exam to cheer her on. He had never had such patience, not even with his younger brothers. His right hand was still on her waist, and his left hand was stroking the girl's fluffy head, which felt similar to a cat's. The two of them were so close to each other. Being held in Li Junyu's arms, Wan Mengmeng breathed in the man's unusually obvious hormonal scent with every breath she took. Wan Mengmeng felt a little dizzy, and her heart was beating faster. She had never had the ability to resist beauty. Moreover, the woman in front of her was probably the most beautiful woman in S country. Her heart was beating faster and faster. It was so fast that it almost jumped out of his throat. Yes, Ing Luo, I know, Ing Luo. She took his big palm off his head and tidied his hair. She lowered her eyes and showed a rare timidity. Ing Luo, I'll go in first. Don't worry, I'll do my best for the exam. After saying that, the girl carried her school bag and ran towards the school gate. Her youthful school uniform skirt made beautiful waves in the air. Li Junyu's eyes were calm. However, after staring at Wan Mengmeng's back for a while, a thought suddenly flashed through his mind. Wasn't Wisdom Academy's uniform skirt a little too short? On the other side, Wan Mengmeng ran into the classroom and sat in her seat, still panting heavily. Oh no, Ing Luo, what happened to her just now? Why was her heart beating so fast? Her face was so hot, and she had the illusion that she did not dare to look Li Junyu in the eye. Was she sick? She had never felt this way in her life. Even in the past, when she was facing Gu Xian and those handsome young men, she was never as flustered as she was just now. Wan Mengmeng sprawled on the seat, burying her head in her arms. She could not calm down for a long time. After a while, she finally found the root of the problem. Yes. It must be because of a guilty conscience. Li Junyu had suddenly appeared to send her to the exam, and had even supported her and encouraged her. However, she could not do as he wished and hand in a satisfactory answer. Yes, that must be the case. She only felt guilty and ashamed, so she blushed and her heart beat faster. Wan Mengmeng finally heaved a sigh of relief when she realized this. Just then, there was a commotion outside the door. She looked up and saw Wan Jiaojiao, who was pale and sickly, walking into the classroom with the help of a few kind-hearted classmates. Wan Jiaojiao mumbled, she's also taking the exam. Outside the school gate, Li Junyu, who had just returned to his car after sending off his exams, suddenly received a call. Young master, the data center has been transferred earlier than expected. Just now, we found out the identity of Lord Meng rules the world. Chapter 93 You are listening at novelfull.audio. 93 Lord Meng rules the world, huh? After the exam, Ruan Meng got out of the car. She felt like she had lost half of her life. Li Junyu's encouragement made her want to try and do the questions seriously. But Ying still couldn't. It was the same every time. The old habit followed him like a shadow. Now, she just wanted to go back to her room and sleep. She wouldn't give face to anyone. Uncle Zhao, I'm not eating dinner. I'm a little tired. I'll go back to my room and sleep for a while. Ruan Meng instructed the butler who was standing at the door to welcome her, then carried her school bag and went upstairs. Uncle Zhao wanted to say something, but he stopped himself. But when he thought of the young master's instructions, he swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. Miss Meng, it's not that Uncle Zhao doesn't want to help you. The butler thought. When the young master was angry, even the old master did not dare to fight back. Sigh, I can only silently pray for Miss Meng in my heart. Ruan Meng pushed the door open and entered the room as usual. Today was exam day, and Li Junyu was being merciful by not arranging any supplementary lessons for her. Fortunately, this was the case. She had suffered a great loss today and was really too tired. She drowsily threw away her bag and was about to change her coat. Ruan Meng, you're finally back. At this moment, a cold and deep voice, more ineffably violent than usual, suddenly rang out in the room. The man who had been sitting behind the desk in advance, waiting to teach Ruan Meng a lesson, was Li Junyu. His cold gaze fell on Ruan Meng. You're cowardly. She screamed half a beat later and quickly jumped onto the bed, pulling up the quilt to cover herself. Li Junyu, you pervert. Who allowed you to enter my room without informing me? You go out and take a walk. Ruan Meng was triggered, very triggered. In the middle of changing clothes, a member of the opposite sex suddenly appeared in the room. No one could stand it. However, the more she called out, the uglier Li Junyu's expression became. The man sat there with a dark and unpredictable face. After shouting a few times, Ruan Meng sensed that something was wrong. In the end, the voice became softer and softer, and finally stopped. What are you doing in my room? She hid behind the blanket, only revealing two watery almond-shaped eyes. Her pitiful appearance was like a little wife who had just been bullied by him. If it was in the past, Li Junyu might have let this little girl off the hook. But today, Ruan Meng hid behind the blanket and felt the pressure on the man's body suddenly drop. Immediately after that, she saw Li Junyu get up and walk towards her with his long legs. He was 1.9 meters tall and gave off an extremely oppressive aura. The man's thin lips were tightly pursed, and his expression was cold and indifferent. His dark eyes were fixed on her face. Being stared at like that, Ruan Meng, who had always been fearless, suddenly felt her heart beating like a drum. What are you doing, Luo? She subconsciously stepped back until she reached the head of the bed, and she clutched the blanket tightly. Unfortunately, her resistance was completely ignored. Li Junyu strode over to the bed with his long legs. He bent down and placed his two large palms on the left and right sides of her head. With two thuds, she was pressed against the bed. The man's black eyes were lowered, and his gaze was as sharp as an eagle's as he looked at the kitten under him. His thin lips curled up and he coldly spat out a few words, Lord Meng will rule the world, Chapter 94 You are listening at novelfull.audio. 94 She's done for, she's exposed her identity, What Lord Meng? Li Junyu, Luo, don't you dare give me a nickname. Ruan Meng turned her eyes away, not daring to look at the handsome face that was too close to her. She had never been in such a sorry state in her life. Her little face was burning red. Li Junyu lowered his gaze and watched as the red blush spread from her fair cheeks to her ears and neck. His eyes darkened. That pair of bottomless cold eyes narrowed slightly, his well-defined fingers clasped the girl's small and delicate chin, and he forced it up without any pity. Ruan Meng Meng, listen up, hoo. Li Junyu stared at her, his deep and cold voice carrying a heavy threat. I've warned you before, be good and don't cause me any trouble, and I'll treat you like a little sister. However, it's a pity that your actions have broken the good cooperative relationship between us. Since you can't give me a perfect answer, I can only use extreme means. Why don't you let go of me, Ying Luo? I don't know what you're talking about. Ruan Meng Meng hated the feeling of being threatened by others. Li Junyu pinched her chin, and the threatening action made her feel extremely uncomfortable. If it was anyone else, she would have flown into a rage and broken the other party's arm. However, she did not know what Li Junyu had found out. Perhaps it was just a little bit, or even more. But before he laid his cards on the table, she decided to continue playing dumb. You don't know what I'm saying. The man narrowed his eyes. There was an undisguisable danger hidden in those cold and emotionless eyes. Sensing danger, Ruan Meng Meng wanted to escape. However, before she could make her next move, she suddenly felt dizzy. The man's strong and powerful palm clasped her back and turned her over. Then, pa! An extremely clear sound came from her back. This tyrant, this detestable man, he actually hit her. Or would he hit her without dignity like he was teaching a child a lesson? You ridiculed Li Junyu. How dare you hit me? Ruan Meng Meng had gone mad. She had really gone mad. She raised her chin and roared at him, like a wild cat baring its sharp claws. If you dare to hit me again, I'll *ck you up. Before she could finish her sentence, she saw the man raise his large palm again. This slap was a punishment. Even Ruan Meng Meng, who had never been sensitive to pain, was so anxious that she started to cry. It wasn't so painful that she cried, but it was just too humiliating and embarrassing. Li Junyu, I'm not done with you today. Ruan Meng Meng's eyes were red with anxiety as well. She turned her hand around, wanting to break free from his grip and crush this man's damned wrist. However, she, who had always been strong, was unable to break free from Li Junyu's single-handed grip. She had no idea that she was only strong and had never received any training. Li Junyu, on the other hand, spent every winter and summer vacation before his mother passed away at the Reddington family's training base to practice all sorts of fighting skills. To him, controlling Ruan Meng Meng with one hand was an easy task. The man held down the struggling kitten, not giving her any chance to escape. His large palm hit her back mercilessly, and as he hit her, he lectured her, a pot-sized fist, right? Are you threatening the teacher? Chapter 95. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 95. Chapter 96. Discovered, intelligent and serious in class. You force your teacher to do your homework every night and go play games on your own, huh? Li Junyu chided her while questioning her. Old Chow, Old Li, Old Ren, and Old Huang, you betrayed me. Ruan Meng Meng wanted to cry but had no tears. Her heart was filled with heartache from being betrayed by her little friend. It's fine if you don't do your proper work, but you still dare to cause trouble with Xiaoxi. Ruan Meng Meng, I'll give you a few slaps today for skipping classes for a few days. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ruan Meng Meng quickly counted silently in her heart. In a moment of panic and confusion, her old habit came back that she actually could not count clearly. In any case, she did not know how many times Li Junyu had hit her. It was only when he stopped that she finally found a chance to fight back. Li Junyu, you've gone too far. I'll fight you to the death today. If she didn't take revenge on Fei Jiru, she would get justice. Ruan Meng Meng did not care that Li Junyu was still holding onto her hands. She straightened her body, raised her head, and knocked Li Junyu's chin. Damn it, to think that he had such a handsome face that could bring disaster to a country and its people, but the things he did were so immoral. Hitting a girl, even if he only hit her back, didn't he know that it was great humiliation to a girl? She gritted her teeth and decided to disfigure Lee Junyo's handsome face to get rid of this evil for the people. The man, who realized the girl's intention, suddenly released his hands and instinctively leaned back to avoid her. Unexpectedly, Lee Junyo released her from his shackles and her hands were suddenly free. Won Mengmeng's body became much lighter. This caused her to rush upwards with more strength than expected. The young and beautiful girl jumped up. The height of the jump was higher than the man sitting on the bed. Her two small hands unconsciously pressed down on Lee Junyo's shoulders and pushed him back. Then, the sound of bang. With a heavy sound, the two of them fell back. Won Mengmeng was on top, and Lee Junyo was on the bottom. She had Lee Junyo firmly pressed down on her. What was even more frightening was that her lips had coincidentally touched the man's thin lips. In an instant, the entire bedroom fell silent. The atmosphere was strange. Won Mengmeng did not move, nor did she dare to move. She could clearly feel the man's firm and tight muscles under her palm. And her heart was beating fast. The sound of his heart beating was still in his ears. It was so clear and obvious. Oh my God, she actually kissed Lee Junyo. That was her first kiss. How much longer do you want to suppress it? Get up. The man's cold voice came faintly. He spoke without warning, giving Won Mengmeng a shock. Won Mengmeng, Ing Luo. She was so scared that she immediately jumped away. Mommy, I was bullied. It was my first kiss. The little girl crossed her arms and jumped to the side. She wanted to cut off all ties with this tyrant. When Won Mengmeng left, Lee Junyo's dark brows furrowed ever so slightly. He was unwilling to admit it. There was something missing in his embrace, which actually made him feel uncomfortable for a moment. Won Mengmeng, Lee Junyo suddenly called her name. His deep voice was lazy and magnetic. He was like a noble who had walked out of a medieval painting. At this moment, he was sitting diagonally in front of the bed, his long legs casually crossed, and he looked at her with deep eyes. Won Mengmeng even suspected that Lee Junyo was of foreign descent. Otherwise, how could he have such sharp and deep facial features like a mixed blood? Hearing him call her, she looked over in a daze. She happened to see the man's slender index finger gently rubbing against his thin lips. Here. Lee Junyo tapped his finger on his thin lips. He lifted his chin and looked at her with his cold and handsome eyes. You have to take responsibility. I'll take responsibility. Why? I wasn't the one who ran just now, Won Mengmeng said. Her face turned red again, and she couldn't even complete a sentence. She lowered her head subconsciously and did not dare to meet Lee Junyo's burning eyes. Her cheeks were burning hot, and she even had the urge to have a nosebleed. What's wrong with her? He actually felt guilty all of a sudden. When she thought about what happened just now, it seemed like it was really caused by her and not Lee Junyo. Also, she could not take her eyes off Lee Junyo's devilishly handsome face when she saw him pointing at his lips. It's finished. The dog of beauty was really a fatal weakness. If she took one more look at Lee Junyo like this, she would not be able to breathe. Just as Won Mengmeng could not find an excuse and did not know what to say, the man's cold voice sounded again. I'll give you 5 minutes to organize your thoughts. I'll wait for you in the study. 5 minutes later, Won Mengmeng, who had calmed down, appeared in Lee Junyo's study. Won Mengmeng was well behaved by then. She changed her clothes and sat beside Lee Junyo like an obedient child. Lee Junyo glanced at the well-behaved young girl. He guessed that she must still be bothered by what had just happened. From today onwards, I'll tutor you. His cold and indifferent voice rang out softly, but it was unyielding and unquestionable. What? Won Mengmeng was shocked. What, you have an opinion? No, 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 Ing Luo. She was a little confused now. How could she dare to have an opinion? She had accidentally taken advantage of Li Junyu just now. Even the humiliation of being punished by him had been suppressed by the horror that this incident brought. Li Junyu took in all of Ruan Mengmeng's actions. He squinted his cold eyes. He didn't expect that a kiss would make the kitten retract its sharp claws. It turned out that she was afraid of this. But Ing Luo, you're very busy every day. If you have to tutor me every day, wouldn't it be too troublesome? Ruan Mengmeng thought for a moment and found a reason to decline. It's fine. If I'm not free, I'll get other teachers to do it for me. Ruan Mengmeng heaved a sigh of relief when she heard that she could see her old friends again. Since Li Junyu was so busy, she believed that he would not have much free time. However, before she could completely relax, the man's deep voice sounded again. Same old rules. Be good and I'll reward you. But if you dare to play any tricks and refuse to cooperate, then. If I don't cooperate, are you going to hit me again? Ruan Mengmeng blinked and could not help but ask. No, Li Junyu flatly denied. He lowered his eyes and looked over. His cold black eyes flashed with a strange light. I'll kiss you. Ruan Mengmeng covered her mouth in an instant. What did you say? Kiss me Ing Luo, y. Ing Luo, you're my big brother. Yes, my older brother who is not related by blood, Ing Luo. The man nodded, his tone calm and indifferent. I'll kiss you, you kiss you. Damn it, she actually stuttered. Chapter 96 You are listening at novelfull.audio. 96 His way Ruan Mengmeng, Li Junyu suddenly called her name. His deep voice was lazy and magnetic. He was like a noble who had walked out of a medieval painting. At this moment, he was sitting diagonally in front of the bed, his long legs casually crossed, and he looked at her with deep eyes. Ruan Mengmeng even suspected that Li Junyu was of foreign descent. Otherwise, how could he have such sharp and deep facial features like a mixed blood? Hearing him call her, she looked over in a daze. She happened to see the man's slender index finger gently rubbing against his thin lips. Here, Li Junyu said as he tapped his finger on his thin lips. He lifted his chin and looked at her with his cold and handsome eyes. You kissed me just now. So, if there's a bad person, it's you, not me. I ran. Ruan Mengmeng's face turned red again, and she could not even complete a sentence. She lowered her head subconsciously and did not dare to meet Li Junyu's burning eyes. Her cheeks were burning hot, and she even had the urge to have a nosebleed. What's wrong with her? His mouth was dry, and his heart was pounding. Even she could not tell if it was because she felt guilty about Li Junyu accusing her of forcing a kiss on him. Or was it because she saw him in a daze and saw him pointing to his lips with a finger? At that moment, he was devilishly handsome, making people unable to look away. It's finished. The dog of beauty was really a fatal weakness. If she took one more look at Li Junyu like this, she would not be able to breathe. Just as Ruan Mengmeng could not find an excuse and did not know what to say, the man's cold voice sounded again. I'll give you 5 minutes to get dressed. I'll be waiting for you in the study. 5 minutes later, Ruan Mengmeng, who had calmed down, appeared in Li Junyu's study. Ruan Mengmeng was well behaved by then. She changed her clothes and sat beside Li Junyu like an obedient child. Li Junyu glanced at the well-behaved young girl and guessed that she must still be bothered by the kiss just now. From today onwards, I'll tutor you. His cold and indifferent voice rang out softly, but it was unyielding and unquestionable. What? Ruan Mengmeng was shocked. What, you have an opinion? No, Ing Luo. She was a little confused now. How could she dare to have an opinion? She had just kissed Li Junyu, and even the shame of being punished by him was suppressed by the fear that this incident brought. Li Junyu took in all of Ruan Mengmeng's actions. He squinted his cold eyes. He didn't expect that a kiss would make the kitten retract its sharp claws. It turned out that she was afraid of this. But Ing Luo, you're very busy every day. If you have to tutor me every day, wouldn't it be too troublesome? Wan Meng Meng thought for a moment and found a reason to decline. It's fine. If I'm not free, I'll get other teachers to do it for me. Wan Meng Meng heaved a sigh of relief when she heard that she could see her old friends again. Since Li Junyu was so busy, she believed that he would not have much free time. However, before she could completely relax, the man's deep voice sounded again. Same old rules. Be good and I'll reward you. But if you dare to play any tricks and refuse to cooperate, then. If I don't cooperate, are you going to hit me again? Wan Meng Meng blinked and could not help but ask. No, Li Junyu flatly denied. He lowered his eyes and looked over. His cold black eyes flashed with a strange light. I'll kiss you. Wan Meng Meng covered her mouth in an instant. What did you say? Kiss me Ing Luo, y. Ing Luo, you're my big brother. Yes, my older brother who is not related by blood, Ing Luo. The man nodded, his tone calm and indifferent. Chapter 97. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 97. Li Juanxi is the invincible baby. Wan Mengmeng's face turned red for a while before she finally found her voice. You're teasing Li Junyu, how can you kiss me? No, I definitely can't. Wan Mengmeng was really scared this time. How could there be such a thing? She wouldn't even care if he skipped class or beat her up. And now, he even wanted to kiss her. He was kissing her. Ing Luo, wait. Could she ask what kind of kiss he was going to do? What, are you questioning my ability? As soon as he finished speaking, Li Junyu propped up half of his body and leaned over. He saw that cold and noble handsome face magnified in front of his eyes. Wan Mengmeng was so shocked that she almost fell off her seat. Big brother, let's talk this out. A gentleman uses his mouth and not his fists. As soon as she finished speaking, she wanted to bite her tongue to commit suicide. *CK, what was she saying? What did she mean by using words, not using force? Wasn't that telling Li Junyu to quickly kiss her? Li Junyu's handsome face was about to touch her. Plop, plop. Her heart was beating fast and her breathing was erratic. She didn't know what she was afraid of, but she felt as if all the hair on her body was standing on end. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Time seemed to have stopped. Wan Mengmeng's heart still palpitated with fear, and she opened one of her eyes. He's gone. When she looked up again, she realized that Li Junyu had already returned to his original position. He was holding his chin with one hand, his thin lips slightly curved, and he was staring at her with a faint smile. In that pair of bottomless eyes, there was an obvious teasing. Damn it, he actually played her. It was a pity that Wan Mengmeng's heart was raging, but she did not dare to act rashly on the surface. She could only stay in her seat obediently like a kitten. Li Junyu was obviously very satisfied with the result of his teasing. He raised his eyebrows slightly and picked up a set of supplementary teaching materials that had been prepared on the desk with one hand. He said lightly, return the money to Xiaoxi and we'll start the tutoring. Xian returned it to Xiaoxi. Wan Mengmeng did not understand what he meant. When Li Junyu had reprimanded her for not doing her job properly and playing games with Li Juanxi, she had not taken his words to heart. At that time, she was being smacked by Li Junyu, and she was so embarrassed that she did not have the time to pay attention to anything else. What, you've already forgotten that you brought Xiaoxi to play games? Li Junyu raised his eyes, his cold gaze fixed on Wan Mengmeng. Wan Mengmeng was stunned for half a second before she suddenly realized, no, of course not, Ing Luo. She wasn't stupid, so she understood immediately. *CK, so I'm invincible, was Li Juanxi. Wan Meng Meng was shocked by the truth. In that case, return the 100,000 yuan to him. You're the older sister, so you have to act like one. Li Junyu's voice was low, but his tone was very certain. It was obvious that first young Master Li's words were unquestionable. But it was 100,000 yuan. A whole 100,000 yuan for her to return Li Junshi's kasaya. Damn, why was she so unlucky? It was not easy for her to cling on to a rich man's golden thigh, and now she had to cling on to Li Junshi. Wan Meng Meng had no idea that her sugar daddy was Li Junshi. In her eyes, Invincible Bao Bao was a silly rich boss. Although the price she offered was a little expensive, it was true that she had worked hard every night for the past week to help him score. The sponsor had poor skills, high demands, liked to blabber, and even wanted to go on stage personally. Even a god like Wan Meng Meng, who had the skill of 1 versus 0.5, could only reach the platinum tier after a week of hard work with Li Junshi. Thinking of this, Wan Meng Meng's heart ached even more for herself. After all this, she really did bring an elementary school student to Yingluo. Oh, no, Li Junshi had skipped a grade. He was a middle school student. But no matter what, Li Junshi paid for what she had done. The money was the fruit of her labor, and she couldn't just hand it over like that. Whatever, Wan Meng Meng decided to give it a shot. Chapter 98. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 98. So Li Junyu fell for this. Wan Meng Meng thought about it and asked, so, little she told you my in.game account number. He knows my identity. He doesn't know. Li Junyu shot her a cold look. But even if he doesn't know, you still have to return the money. Wait a minute, Ran. Wan Meng Meng caught on to something else. If Xiaoxi doesn't know my identity, how did my account get leaked? Li Junyu's long and narrow eyes narrowed. He paused for 2 seconds before speaking again, his cold voice carrying a hint of arrogance. It's simple. I'm the founder of Imperial Glory Technology. Wan Meng Meng's pupils suddenly shrank, and her beautiful almond-shaped eyes could not help but widen. Li Junyu was actually the founder of Imperial Glory Technology. The top gaming company in the world. Imperial Glory Technology, that's right, Imperial, isn't that exactly what Li Junyu meant? Wan Meng Meng was frustrated and regretful. If she had known about that account earlier, she would not have registered with her own personal information. No wonder Li Junyu found out. At that thought, Wan Meng Meng suddenly took a deep breath and looked up. Big brother, can I ask you something? Junjun, please don't let Xiaoxi know my identity, okay? The young girl raised her eyes, which were filled with mist. Her bright almond-shaped eyes looked at him for help, and there was a trace of uneasiness and fear in the rippling light. Li Junyu's phoenix-like eyes paused for a moment when he saw her gaze. A tiny electric current ran through the man's heart, as if he had been stung by something. Li Junyu squinted his eyes and forced himself to remain calm. Let's talk this out, don't cry. His tone was still frighteningly cold, but his tone had subconsciously slowed down. Wan Meng Meng immediately sensed the change in Li Junyu's attitude from his voice. So Li Junyu fell for this. As if she had suddenly found the trick, the young girl blinked her beautiful almond-shaped eyes and looked at him pitifully. I'm not crying. Wan Meng Meng sniffed stubbornly and bit her lower lip. I'll tell you the truth. When I first arrived, I accidentally saw Xiaoxi playing that game. You know Yingluo is my little brother, but he's not close to me. Yingluo, I don't have a big sister anymore, so when I see my little brother, I can't help but want to get close to him, Yingluo. I was afraid that Xiaoxi would reject me, so I could only approach him as a substitute in the game. Now, we've finally established a common language and exchanged WeChat messages. Things are going well. I'm really afraid that if I let him know the truth, he'll distance himself from Yingluo even more. Ruan Mengmeng did not even need to finish her sentence before Li Junyu understood. Although Ruan Mengmeng and Li Juanxi were half-sister and half-brother, their relationship was very thin. Coupled with Xiaoxi's personality, if Ruan Mengmeng didn't get close to him in the game, she probably wouldn't be able to talk much to him. Li Junyu frowned at the thought of this. When he looked up, he saw the girl looking at him pitifully with her big, watery eyes. Suddenly, he felt that Ruan Mengmeng's pitiful appearance was exactly the same as the little kittens he had raised when he was young. After a moment of silence, Li Junyu finally said, "Forget about this 100,000 yuan. Take it as a meeting gift from Xiaoxi to sister." Ruan Mengmeng was overjoyed. "If you don't return the taxi, you have to finish the order, right? I've made an appointment with him to take him to King for 2 hours every night." Ruan Mengmeng blinked her eyes and her tone became excited. Ruan Mengmeng felt that she was extremely smart. The reason she thought of on the spur of the moment not only allowed her to not get a refund, but she might even be able to get Li Junyu to relent and let her continue playing the game. Li Junyu raised his cold eyes and glanced at her. His thin lips curled up. "It's okay. I'll finish the form for you while I'm tutoring you." What? Li Junyu wanted to play in her place. Ruan Mengmeng sized Li Junyu up from head to toe 3 times. She suspected that she had heard wrong. Chapter 99. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 99. Li Junyu's other identity. It was not that Ruan Mengmeng was looking down on Li Junyu, but she really did not believe that Li Junyu, who was wearing a suit and tie and had the face of an ascetic Prince Charming, would play games. He had to be the kind of gaming expert who had the ability to bring Li Juanxi up to the king tier. However, what happened next made Ruan Mengmeng's jaw drop. She actually saw Li Junyu take out his phone and log into the game in front of her. The moment he logged in, a line of golden words appeared on the scrolling banner interface on his phone screen. Super God 0 has logged into the game's first server. Come and worship him with the others. How are you, 0? The great ancient god, Qianqian 0. Ruan Mengmeng pointed at the screen and was so surprised that she could not close her mouth. 0, the legendary god 0. The game number 0 was even earlier than the number 000001 that was created. The game had attracted a large number of players' attention before the closed beta. During the closed beta, 100,000 accounts were opened for players to try out. The first batch of players who tried out the game had paid almost 100% of the renewal fee. From the closed beta to the closed beta, and then to the open beta, many excellent game workers had emerged. From 000001 to 100,000, there were a total of 100,000 people, and each of them had their own personal number. These people included professional players, game commentators, and famous live streamers. It could be said that these 100,000 people had completely laid the foundation for the game. But this was not the most legendary thing. The most legendary thing was that on the eve of the closed beta, before these 100,000 people, a super god had already been born in the game. That was the Super Guru who was the first to bring the content of the closed beta to live streaming platforms and video streaming sites, 0. Number 0, ID 0, the legendary ancient god. 0. You're actually 0. Ruan Mengmeng had said the same thing 3 times. Furthermore, the way she looked at Li Junyu had unknowingly turned into a pair of starry eyes. He was the first mentor of the game she had played, the number 1 male god in her heart. Looking at the ID 0, it was as if time had returned to a few years ago. When she had first entered the game, she had watched Zero God's videos. From his cool and agile operation, calm prediction, and superior overall vision, she had figured out her own style. Why didn't you play professionally after that? I remember that you won the first world championship in S country when you first started playing games. Why did you lose so much later on? Ruan Mengmeng tugged at Li Junyu agitatedly, her soft little hand covering the back of the man's hand. Li Junyu raised his head and shot her a cold look. Ruan Mengmeng immediately snapped out of her agitated state and retracted her hand. How could she have forgotten that the man in front of her had another identity? He was the Li family's first young master, Li Junyu. As the heir to the Li family, of course he would not make a living out of playing games. Since you know about Zero, I don't think you need me to demonstrate. Li Junyu exited the game and turned off his phone. Then, a well-defined, slender, and good-looking hand spread out in front of Ruan Mengmeng. What? She looked at him adorably. She had not yet calmed down from the excitement of seeing her idol. Give me your phone. Li Junyu's eyes were indifferent. He placed the exercise book on the table in front of her with his other hand. You have 2 hours to finish this set of questions. What? Ruan Mengmeng blinked, her jaw dropping. In the quiet study, only the sound of the pen scribbling on the paper could be heard. Ruan Mengmeng was concentrating on her exercise book. On the other side, the man was sitting on the sofa, holding the phone horizontally with both hands. His cold eyes gradually turned cold, and even a trace of malicious light flashed across them. F***ck. That head was mine. Do you know how to level up? You even stole the boss' head. Who let you come over? I can kill him immediately. What do you mean by running over to kill him? Invincible Bao Bao. F***ck, you only killed 4 of them and let the other one run away. How can you get a team wipe in such a simple game? What kind of substitute are you? This is trash. Chapter 100. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 100. Chapter 101. Old habits act up again. Li Juanxi, who was playing games in his room, suddenly received a message from his teammate, Cutie Lioness Rules the World, who had gone offline. What's going on? Why did you disconnect, Ingluo? Quickly come online. Li Juanxi mumbled as he barely managed to deal with the enemy's harassment. At this moment, 3 cold knocks on the door suddenly sounded, giving him a fright. Who is it? Li Juanxi asked loudly. It's me, big brother. The man's cold voice was heard. Li Juanxi's hand trembled, and he almost dropped his phone. Oh, wait a minute, I'm coming. As he replied, he hurriedly hid his phone in the drawer and arranged the books and practice questions on the table before running to the door. After taking a few deep breaths behind the door, Li Juanxi opened it and forced a smile at the cold-looking man behind the door. Big brother, why are you so slow? Li Junyu lowered his gaze and looked at the little boy in front of him with a cold expression. Oh, yeah, I was listening inside with my headphones on. I didn't hear the knocking. Li Juanxi broke out in a cold sweat from his big brother's powerful aura, but he pretended to be calm. Li Junyu nodded and did not say much, but his deep eyes darkened. Li Juanxi suddenly felt that the coldness that flashed in Li Junyu's eyes could almost tear him apart. He's been doing very well recently. Ingluo didn't seem to have done anything to offend Big Brother. This brat had no idea that his scolding in the game had offended his big brother. Finish this report tonight and write a summary. From now on, you have to submit a summary to my study room every night before you go to bed. Ling Bei will send you the latest report on time. Li Junyu handed the brat a document expressionlessly. Li Juanxi took the document and flipped through it. His beautiful eyes immediately widened. This is Ingluo's financial report for the first half of the year. Li Juanxi's voice was trembling as he spoke. Country-wise financial report was in a foreign language, and it was a full 6 months financial report. Did his big brother really know that his little brother was only 8 years old this year? Not only did he skip grades to study in junior high school, but he also had to look at the financial reports of foreign companies. If you don't understand, go online to check or flip through professional books. If you can't finish, you don't need to sleep. Li Junyu patted his younger brother's head. There was no pity in his cold eyes. It was precisely because the devilish child had too little homework that he had the time to play tricks. Li Juanshi cried as he watched his older brother walk away without mercy. It's over, it's over. It's impossible to get on top of a king tier. Don't even think about getting on top of a king tier in this lifetime. In the study, Huan Mengmeng was being tormented by a math problem until she was dizzy. Simplify and transform the original formula, then use the two situations where a is less than or equal to 0 and a is greater than 0 to discuss. A deep and pleasant voice suddenly came from above her head. Huan Mengmeng was slightly taken aback. She raised her head and the back of her head happened to be in a hard embrace. You, why are you here? It was only then that she realized that Li Junyu had quietly walked up behind her without her knowing. He was lazily supporting himself with his arms in front of the table, trapping her between the desk and his arms. Xiaoxi still has to replace Xinjun. He has something to do, so he went offline first. Li Junyu said coldly. What, he actually went offline? That child went online earlier than her every night and went offline later than her. This was the first time he had gone offline earlier than her. Alright, don't get distracted. Solve this problem as I said. The deep voice rang in her ears again. Only then did Huan Mengmeng snap out of her thoughts, and she suddenly felt the tip of her ears burning. The hand holding the pen trembled, and she wrote the word solution on the blank test paper. But after that, no matter what, he couldn't continue writing. Damn it, the more this kind of time, the fiercer the old illness came.